Working hand in hand with MYOB Advanced is MYOB Advanced People, a powerful cloud payroll solution. Your employees can access payslips, apply for leave and update their details using online self-service. MYOB Advanced People is automatically updated to reflect the latest legislation and tax changes. You can use MYOB Advanced People as a standalone payroll solution, but integrating it with MYOB Advanced gives you all the power and functionality you need in one platform.
I'm going to present to you the MYOB Advanced People solution. First off, I've logged in as an employee to the Employee Self-Service portal. This allows the employee to get access to information held within the payroll system, such as payslips. They can check their contact details and raise leave requests. First of all, contact details. This allows the employee to see what personal information is held within the payroll system about them. You'll notice there are a number of fields on the screen, and where there are white boxes, this allows the employee to make changes. The system can be configured to lock down specific fields based on your organization's requirements as to which content you wish the employees to be able to change and not change. Phone and email address details are captured, as well as employees' physical addresses. Emergency contacts can be maintained by the employee to ensure that they are always kept up to date. And finally, attributes. Attributes are user-defined fields that allows you to extend the MYOB Advanced People solution to hold more information about an employee. As you can see here, I'm holding information about my driver's license and also the expiry. Reports or notifications can be set up to advise the user when a person's driver's license, in this case, is set to expire. Employment details relate to the relationship between the employee and the organization. Employee can see what department they belong to, what their current position is, what branch or location they reside in, and whether they attract full-time, part-time or casual, permanent or temporary, the number of hours and days they are expected to work each week. We also capture tax details, which is very important from an IRD perspective, so the employee can make sure that their IRD number is correct, that they have the right tax code applied to them, and then they can see their year-to-date balances. And an employee can see the bank accounts where they will receive their pay into. By default, every employee has to have at least one bank account, the balance type. This is where the majority of their pay will go to. Depending on whether your organization wish to allow employees to have additional bank accounts or not, the system can maintain an additional bank account to send a fixed amount or percentage of the pay to another bank account for the employee with each pay run. Superannuation allows the employee to see their KiwiSaver details. I can see here that the employer's contribution is 3% and currently my employee contribution is 3%. Payslips allows me to see the payslips that I received at the end of each pay run. I can click on a file and open up the PDF file. From there I can also download the file if I wish to. Then we move to the leave functionality available within the system. First up, an employee can see their leave balances. Now we can configure the system based on what leave types or entitlements you wish the employees to be able to see. In this case, I'm allowing employees to see an annual leave balance, family violence balance, and a sick leave balance. From here, the employee could raise a leave request if they wish to. The predicted leave balance allows an employee to look at their annual leave at a future date and time. So if I'm wondering how many days I'll have available to me come Christmas this year, I can select the date in the future and the system will automatically calculate a projected balance for me. Now this is very much just an estimate. However, because of my circumstances within the business and that it might change, maybe I move from full-time to part-time hours, the projected balance is only accurate at this point in time. Leave request is where I can create and submit a leave request. It also shows me the live requests that have been processed to date. I can choose the leave type, and once again, this is configurable based on what you wish as an organization to have in the system. I'm going to select annual leave. I can choose whether I'm going to take a portion of a day or I'm going to take one or more full days. I enter a start date and enter an end date. And the system automatically calculates three figures for me. It calculates the number of hours that I'll be taking based on my pattern of work, calculates the number of days I've selected, and it also calculates a portion of a week. As we all know, under the Holidays Act, we are required to maintain leave balances for employees or annual leave balances for employees in weeks. Now, we can't expect an employee to determine the portion of the week that they will be taking. So in this case, Advanced People allows employee to work with hours which they know, and then the system automatically calculates the days and weeks figure. From here, an employee can submit the request and it will go through an approval flow. An employee can also view a calendar and team calendar. The employee calendar gives the employee a view of when they have taken leave over a period of time. If I scroll back to January, I can see that I took some time off after New Year's. I can also see when public holidays fall within the system. Looking at a team calendar, it allows me to see the other people within my team and what leave they may have taken. Now, I'm currently logged in as a manager. I can actually see the individual's leave that they've taken. However, if I was logged in as an employee, I would only be able to see my leave. I could see when another employee was taking leave, but I can't see what type of leave they've taken. As a manager, I also have the access to the approvals option. So this allows me to go in and review leave requests. I can approve a batch of requests, or I can just approve or reject one or more requests at the same time. I'm now going to log out and log back in as a payroll user. Okay, looking into Advanced People now, you'll see I have a lot more information available to me. I've got a bigger menu which gives me access to more functions, and this is all based on my role within the organization. I'm effectively logged in as a payroll administrator at this time. I'm presented with the dashboard in front of me with a variety of information. Information held within the payroll system can be very important and can be very useful to identify trends and capture other information around the demographics of my employees. Just running through a few of the reports that I have here, I've got a weekly pay trend report, so I can hover over my chart, and as you can see, the figures change. I can note as I go through time that the overtime is actually increasing. This may require me to delve into information a bit more to try and figure out why there's so much overtime being worked at the moment. Maybe it means that we need to look at employing another employee. We've got a salary cost breakdown by department. As you see, the system allows us to configure different types of charts within the system. I can hover over the chart once again and see the information, or if I want to, I can click on the chart title and delve into the information that makes up the report of the chart. From here, it is also possible to export the content out to Excel for further manipulation. Pay parity is a big thing within our current workplace, so the next chart that I'd like to look at is the average salary across by department and gender. I can hover over the chart, and based on the information, I can see that generally male and females are paid similarly within each department in my organization. Leave can provide a lot of information about what's happening within my organization. Leave exposure can be difficult because if you've got employees with large leave balances that you can't afford to take as a large chunk, you may want to monitor that and ask the employees to take leave on a regular basis. Annual leave liabilities become quite critical as in the last 12 to 18 months of COVID, a lot of employees have decided to cancel their overseas holidays and have not tended to take a lot of annual leave. Annual leave from a liability perspective can have a large impact on your balance sheet, so it is important to keep track of it and keep those figures down where possible. From a demographics perspective, I can see the gender split within my organization, and I've also got a headcount by department report here. Now, we will be providing a number of standard reports within the MYOB Advanced People solution. Organizations can then pick and choose which of those reports they wish to have on their dashboard. Each employee can have a different dashboard and can customize the dashboard to meet their requirements. I'm now going to delve into the employee information within the system and to show you how easy it is to get around the solution. Delving into the employee details, I can now see a list of all the employees within my organization. Once again, I've got a little Excel button which allows me to export this content out. And this is effectively a report that can be modified to include the content that you require or that you would like to see about the employees. I can quite easily select a column, and I can also filter my employee information relatively quickly. So now I'm just looking at my warehouse department. I can also just quickly clear the filters. If I'm looking for a particular employee and I only know their first name, I can then enter the details to actually drill down and get access to their information quick and easy. Delving into an employee record, you will see information that we saw with the employee self-service module: employee name, phone and email address details, the physical address information, and some personal information like date of birth and gender. The employee settings relate to the relationship the employee has within the organization, what branch or location they're with, the department they belong to, and their work calendar, which defines public holidays and also at a high level defines the hours and days of the week that they will work. The employee class is a way of predefining some information within the system so that when you create a new employee, you can select an employee class in the system and the system will pre-populate some of the fields for you. The Employment History tab allows us to keep track of the employee's progress through our organization over time. So as they change different positions, maybe their employment status or their employment basis changes, you can track that information. You can also track when they terminated. We can hold the termination date, the reason that they were terminated, and we can also flag whether we would ever look to rehire the employee or not. Contacts is the emergency contact or next of kin information that we saw previously. And we can see the attributes that are captured within the system. The other tabs require or hold various information around how the user is referenced within the system. For example, the user info relates to their login details for the employee self-service, and the company tree or assignment approval maps determine the approval processes for various functions that they perform within the system. Pay details is moving into the payroll type information held within the system about an employee. This is also broken up into a variety of information. Standard pay is a list of items that the employee will incur every time they are added to the pay run. So this salaried employee will always be paid a salary amount. There will be some KiwiSaver deductions, and we will accrue annual leave, sick leave, and family violence leave on each pay. From a taxation perspective, we are focused on the IRD number and the tax code for the employee. And we also maintain the employee's super contribution taxation as well. The Employment tab holds the employee's start date. This is very important for accruing of entitlements and knowing what anniversary date is of an employee. We also have some information around the Holiday Act settings. So how we determine the work pattern for the employee, what FBAP rate will be applied by default, and how we calculate the ordinary weekly pay rate. There are a number of variations that we can choose from within the system. Settings determine how the payslip will be delivered. We can print the payslips, we can email the payslip out as an attachment, or we can simply email the employee a link to the self-service portal to access their payslips. Employee defaults relate to their ACC code or levy rates that will be charged. And the GL posting class is used to predefine cost information about the employee when general ledger transactions are produced at the end of the pay run. The Entitlement Balances screen allows the payroll user to be able to see the balances that the employee currently has. This is for inquiry purposes, so if the payroll person gets asked by an employee for their balances, the payroll person can view that information quick and easy. The definition of week determines the work pattern for the employee, and we have a number of options available. We have the work calendar, we have fixed hours and days, and we have an employee schedule. We're not going to delve into all of those now. And finally, the pay distribution is where the payroll capture the various bank accounts that an employee would be paid into as part of their pay run. Similar to what we saw within the employee self-service, except for payroll has the control to add or remove items from the list. Let's now move into the payroll processing cycle. We've got a number of buttons at the top of the screen which creates a flow for running a pay. Depending on the type of employee that you're processing, we may be pulling information from timesheets or a workflow management system, or in the case of a salaried employee, we wouldn't necessarily worry about timesheets. For this demonstration, I'm going to process a pay run for my weekly staff. I'm going to import a timesheet to begin with. So I will be pulling through an Excel spreadsheet of content from either a clocking system or a workforce management system of timesheet data for the employees. I select my timesheet file and upload it into the system. Now we can pull in information in a variety of ways. This could have been a populated CSV file and automatically loaded at a periodic time. Or if you're using the Advanced Workforce Management System, it would be an additional option under the Actions menu to import the content from there. Initially, we've got a number of warnings displayed, so when I've imported my timesheet, it's pulling in the information that's come through from the external system. So we've got an external employee ID, external pay item, a timesheet date and quantity, which are the key pieces of information that we require. The next step is to map the items. This allows the system to actually map the items in the external system to the values held within MYOB Advanced People. Once it is complete, all the warnings have disappeared and we are ready to proceed. The next stage in the pay processing is creating a public holiday batch. So what this involves is selecting a starting and end date for the pay run period that we're about to run. I'm going to select my pay group, which is weekly, and then I'm going to see if there's any pay items or if there's any public holidays that pop up that should be paid for this time period. As you can see, Auckland Anniversary has returned for some of my employees. I can take the batch off hold and save it now. Now, as I process the pay, it will use this batch to determine whether there's any transactions to be processed and loaded into the pay. If I scroll back to the previous public holiday batch, I can see the pay run ID has been associated with these transactions. The next stage is leave administration. So even though leave requests have been submitted by an employee and have gone through the approval process, payroll get the final say as to when these transactions will be paid to the employee. Here I've got an approved leave request that needs payment and it falls within the pay period that I'm going to be processing now. I select the item and mark it as ready for pay, or I could set up a period date in the future. The pay is now ready to proceed. I now start the Manage Pay function. Here I create a new pay. I select the pay group that I'm wishing to process, and as you can see, we can have one or more pay groups set up within the system. We can have multiple pay groups active at any one time, but we can only ever have one of each type open at any point in time. I select the pay group and the system automatically advises me what the start and end dates are for the pay period I'm about to run, as well as the physical pay date. You'll notice these values can be changed, but I'm happy with the results that have been returned to me. I will now click OK and the system will go and find all the employees that belong to this pay group and pull their information into the pay run. This involves loading the employee's base information as well as pulling through any of the standard pay details that we saw previously. Once the system completed its processing, we can then drill down into the pay run. You'll notice here I've got a list of employees, but I've actually got no values against them. This is because my employees in this pay group are driven by their timesheet data. So under the Actions menu, I'm now going to import timesheets. So this is where the system will now look at the timesheet data that I uploaded previously and import it into the system. As it runs, you'll see the figures chop and change on the screen. And when it's completed, it will have uploaded and updated the employees that have had timesheets uploaded with their gross income, their gross taxable, PAYE, and some other values. Through the Actions menu, I can also import any leave for employees. So Yvette, who had a leave request marked as ready to be paid by Payroll, will now be loaded into the pay. And because we know there's some public holidays for the Auckland-based employees due to the anniversary day, we can also import those values next using the Import Public Holidays function. When the data is being loaded, it is also making some changes to the content under the hood. So if I drill on one or more of the employees, I can view and make changes to the employees' individual pay items if I needed to. So I'm going to delve into Greg. I can see that Greg received some wages, potentially had some overtime available, but in this case, it was none for the week. There's a public holiday that has pulled through as one day, so you'll notice that we are capturing different types of units in the system. As we scroll down further, we can see the employee saver contributions from the employer and the employee, and we can see some annual leave accrual as being generated by the system. At this stage, we can make changes to the employee. If we received a message that a fine needs to be added from the Ministry of Justice, we can add those details into the pay run on the fly. In the case of something like child support or maybe a staff loan that needs to be provided to the employee, we would look to add that through their standard pay because this is likely to be something that is going to happen on a week by week or pay period by pay period basis, and we don't want to have to add it in here every time. From within here, we can also drill down and actually proportionally cost employees pay. So in the case of the wages amount, I may want to split that between call centers. So I can click on the GL account and a new screen will open up for me. From within here, I can add a percentage or quantity. I enter the account ID, I enter the new department, so perhaps this employee has gone and worked in my Christchurch warehouse for a period of time, and then a percentage. The system would automatically split the amount or deduct the amount from the initial transaction, and then when the GL transaction is created, it will divide it out evenly. Process here is to work through and update every single employee with the relevant changes that may be required. We would then look to run some reports to confirm everything looks correct before we complete the payroll. Once we are satisfied that all the employees' information is up to date and we have some reports that can be run through as well as some inquiries, we can then start to lock down the pay by clicking the Process button. This will prevent any further changes being made to the pay. Once we are happy to proceed, we can then complete the pay. By completing the pay, it kicks off the chain of events. The system is now creating a bank payment file, which will be then exported at the next stage to be uploaded to the bank. It starts generating the GL transactions related to this pay. It is preparing the payslips for processing, and it's getting information ready for payday filing. We've now been automatically taken to the batch payment screen where we can see the individual employees, the bank accounts that they're getting paid to, and the amounts that they're going to get paid. If we're happy to proceed, we can click Export. This is where we then have the bank file exported into our Downloads folder. If for some reason we can't find the file, the bank file actually gets assigned to this batch and we can access it via the Files option at the top of the screen and download it again if we needed to. You'll also notice there's a grayed out approval button. We can assign approval phases at this stage of the process, so you can have one person create the pay, but then you need approval before you can actually get to the stage of exporting the bank file to be sent to the bank. For demo purposes, I've got an order approval switched on, so I'll now have my bank file and I can upload that to the bank. I'm going to release the batch which generates the GL batch of transactions, and then finally I'm going to create the payslips. Here you'll notice I can click process or I can actually schedule this for a later time. I'm going to process this now because I've only got 13 employees and their payslips will be emailed to them. That ends the payroll process. There are a number of other stages that need to also take place. We can produce the IRD files to be uploaded for payday filing, and we can also run a variety of reports out of the system. This concludes the MYOB Advanced People presentation for now. If you do have any other questions, please reach out to your consultant or your Verde sales team.